basically hours of material that are worked out in clubs, 15 minutes at a time, whatever. And then for the special, they put all these lights up and they do the special. I want to do a show. You can't practice in a club. It makes no sense in a club. The whole meaning of the show is that it's in front of 1,200 people and it's on this great scale.
These motherfuckers think they slick. They think they can just like sleep on their ass for 14 years, come up from the ground, and then hitch free rides off of my whip. Well, Lanooski don't play that game. Lanooski demands a flat rate of bug money. Whatever form that takes. Yeah, I forgot this was happening. I haven't seen these guys since elementary school. This is pretty wild.
So, this week I am watching Cookie. Cookie is some kind of terrier mutt.
Cookie.
She belongs to a good family of mine, who I've known since I was a kid. They've always been my old family. If my OG current family ever got abducted by aliens or something, they'd surely take me in and show me a good time while accepting me for who I am. They're just good people. They really like their Westies and their Scotties. They've had a handful of cool critters that I've been able to make fond memories of. So it's pretty cool being surrounded by that energy, even when they're not here. And Cookie herself is a good pupper.
Can I have it? Can I have it though? Can I? Am I allowed to have it? Am I allowed to have it? I take it? Can I? Oh. Can I have it though? Am I allowed to have it? Am I allowed? Can I have it? Cookie?
I've done a lot of dog sitting over the years. It's something that's conducive to editing videos and doing YouTube stuff and whatever other work I end up getting. Something about just being in an empty house as someone who's 27 and still living at home. Kind of gives you a glimpse into what you would ideally be living like once shit's underway. Aren't things underway right now? Yeah, but no. To quote the greatest movie of all time, The Joker, you wouldn't get it. Some thunder. Tiny friend don't like that. I feel you, tiny one. I don't like that kind of weather either. I can't pick up dogs.
So this is going to be another State of the Noosk, I guess. I'm calling it that, even though it's very much going to be a flexible thing where I can shoot it any way that I want, anywhere that I want, even if I'm not always 100% sure with how I'm going to do it logistically. Like, do I use my DSLR? Do I use a webcam? Do I do what I'm doing right now, where I just take my phone and hook it up to my laptop and rudely rearrange a bunch of furniture so I can turn that room into a micro studio? Like that. Audio, latency test, plan it back, mobile, studio test, camo, iPhone webcam, H4n interface. I'm gonna go shower, and then we will get this the fuck over with. All the while, I'm trying to take this opportunity to talk about a subject that I'm quite passionate about. So this is the State of the Noosk. Here we go. We're stating and we're noosking. They're a hindrance every time, and yet I like them. They keep the blue lights out of my eyes. Supposedly. According to science. I always thought I looked good in glasses, so the whole like blue light craze, it gives you an excuse to wear them without just saying, I'm wearing fashion glasses. I don't know whether or not like the science behind these things actually improves your sleep cycle, increases your quality of life by reducing the amount of harmful, awake, stimulating signals that go into your eyes and tell your brain, hey, party, don't sleep, party. But like, I don't know. I feel like you don't need that in order to wear them if you really, really want to. I had this other pair that weren't blue light, that were just like $10 Clubmaster frames with transparent lenses in them. You know, probably identical lenses to whatever sunglasses that company made. And, you know, admittedly, some people looked at me wearing those things in some of my videos and said, hey, those look pretty sharp. But I would still invoke the wrath of, you know, these underground people who apparently need these things in order to live. I know. Who could have saw that coming? I didn't know they were out there. I just thought they were there for aesthetics. No, some people do need to wear these. If you wear fashion glasses, you have the option of just taking them off as soon as they're no longer comfortable. But, you know, I don't think it's enough to get all indignant. It's like, how dare you? This thing that I'm cursed with throughout my day-to-day life, and you distill it down to a fashion choice. Yeah, who do I think I am? A model? Or an actor? I get it. You don't have the option. You're born with it, and unless you're willing to shell out enough money to get this really risky, potentially life-ruining surgery, you're gonna have to continue to wear them till the end. But in the grand scheme of things, you do have to realize that you could always be in a worse spot than, you know, having to wear these. The Academy wanted me to come down to tell you that we're acutely aware of your suffering, the daily obstacles that you must constantly face that none of us can relate to, day in and day out, of watching other people tower above you, go about their days with able bodies. But I'm here to tell you that there's hope. Research is finally paying off. Technology is finally getting us to a place where you won't have to suffer anymore. And that time is now. I'm here to tell you, Mr. Hawking, you never have to wear these again. That was a very awkwardly delivered version of a bit that I wrote in a book. A tiny book of material. Because since about circa 2014-15, a tiny part of Lanooski has wanted to be a comedian. Another little fun fact about this house that I'm currently in, it is the home of the people who first introduced me to the wonderful, late great Mitch Hedberg.
We will take the chicken, kill it, and impale it, and then rotate it. And I'll be damned if I'm not hungry, because spitting chicken carcasses make my mouth water. I like dizzy chicken with some mashed potatoes.
We were on our way to a Christian summer camp type thing. Community building, activities out the wazoo, by a lake, a mess hall, bunk beds. On the way there and on the way back home from the place, these dear family friends introduced me to one of the goofiest, doofiest, funniest motherfuckers to ever pick up a microphone.
I think Bigfoot is blurry. That's the problem. It's not the photographer's fault. Bigfoot is blurry. And that's extra scary to me. Because there's a large, out-of-focus monster roaming the countryside.
Hey, I did not lose a leg in Vietnam so that I could serve hot dogs to teenagers.
You have both your legs, Frank.
Like I said, I did not lose a leg in Vietnam.
I raised my rock in tribute to the Mitch. Over a decade later, and dear Mitchell is still supplying me with rich raffles when my day's low. Then I need a pick-me-up.
I went to England to tell jokes. I wanted to do Smokey the Bear joke in England, so I had to ask the English if they know who Smokey the Bear was, but they don't. They have Smacky the Frog. I think that's a better system. I think we should adopt it, because bears can be mean. Frogs are always cool. Like, never has there been a frog hopping toward me, and I thought, man, I better play dead. Here comes that frog.
Nah, but I love stand-up. Mitch wasn't the first comedian that I was, like, properly introduced to. The first, I would wager, was probably Eddie Murphy by my own family. Albeit in a really roundabout, indirect way. My mom and dad would constantly quote lines from Delirious, a towering monument of stand-up comedy.
Throw down some money! The ice cream man is coming! But I think he just
be in the car with his friend saying, watch me make how fast I make these motherfuckers run. And you be behind him doing 50 going, ice cream!
Red suit, form-fitting, just waltzing into the same place that really important productions and political meetings would take place, and telling jokes about sitcom characters fucking each other, or shitting in the bathtub with your little brother, or making fun of Richard Pryor or Michael Jackson or Stevie Wonder, all coming out of the mouth of Dr. Dolittle, or Donkey, or Norbit. Comedic masterpiece Norbit. Remember Norbit? But yeah, I heard bits and pieces from the special throughout my young life, and then as soon as I was old enough, in the eyes of my mom, me and my sister and my mom and my grandma and my granddad watched Delirious, and it was everything I could have hoped it to be.
Anybody got them mothers that would hit you with a shoe and can be doing 3 different things? Be on the phone with my grandmother and be cooking with this hand, have the phone like this and be saying, yeah, mama, hold on a second. Bang!
Speaking of my granddad, God rest his soul, he introduced me to Sam Kinison. What a mess of a man.
I mean, Robin Williams has Nanu. Steve Martin has, excuse me. People walk up to me, they act like they're looking at the angel of death. It's like, oh! I know you, man! Oh!
Really impactful dude. Very unique voice, loud as it was. Unique upbringing. He was a Christian, turned pastor, turned performer and comedian.
You watch TV, you wait every night for somebody to come on here and give you an answer for your lives, waiting for someone that'll come and say, hey, this is it. I don't have to settle for defeat anymore. I don't have to lose. I can win. There's something inside me that's not going to let me go down anymore. But I'm not the guy.
And yeah, a lot of his stuff hasn't aged particularly well, especially the more like chauvinist material he had in the rock star phase he had towards the end, where he would shred, then do jokes, then invite people on stage to cuss out their ex-sig with scantily clad women who may or may not have just barely been of legal age. He was a product of his time, not a role model by any stretch of the imagination. But he's got bits here and there that really stuck with me, you know?
Pat Robertson wants to be in the White House. A preacher in the White House. I don't have enough nightmares already. This guy wants to be in the White House because Jesus told him. I'm sitting there listening to this and going, hey! What am I, 5 years old on Grandpa's lap here?
Then what did Jesus say, Grandpa?
You know, I read the Bible, I follow the calendar. I think it's been about 2,000 years since Jesus said anything to anybody. I think his last words may have been,
my hair is still wet. It's taken me till now to really just talk very directly and literally about stand-up comedy, because this channel is so firmly footed behind just media analysis in general. Video essays, talking about movies, talking about music, talking about YouTube drama and sociological developments therein. But so much of this and my channel, especially when you look at stuff from 2016 and 2017, where I was like really going for that vloggy, hey, I have a think, please have. That content, in a way, was me subconsciously trying to do stand-up comedy, even though a lot of it was more sit-down comedy. I guess if you were to call it anything, it'd be called a sit-down. Be humble. But it was me trying to improvise little nuggets of haha to be stumbled upon and ingested by people who were lucky or unlucky, depending on your perspective on the matter, enough to find it and maybe fucking enjoy it, maybe. I don't know. Get these bangs nice and douchey. Now, I want everyone watching at home to imagine for a second that we are not in my basement, that we are in fact on a college campus somewhere in the 1970s. Smoke clouds pluming against the ceiling as beatniks all around the room just constantly exhale tobacco, as well as whatever else happens to be there, you know what I'm saying? The man of the hour goes up to the open mic and says, "Thank you for having me. I would like to perform a piece that I made while I was studying abroad. Her name was Valerie. She's dead. I hope you dig it."
Thank you. That's all. That's all I got. I didn't get very far into the song. This was a mistake.
So I'm shooting this puppy like a hipster this week. I'm drinking like a hipster this week. I might as well look like a hipster this week. Too shiny. 270s. Perfect.
So I was sitting in a chair in the field, man, and I was just looking at the various hills and landscapes, and that's when I realized that I had an image in my head that I could just put between my hands. I grabbed a pen and paper to make sure I didn't lose no spark, you know what I mean? And I went home to my friend Mike, and I'm like, yo, Mike, we need to get this onto the screens, man. You know what I'm saying, Mike? No, not really. Those old, awkward videos of me just trying to act a fool for the sake of acting a fool. I will occasionally go back and watch those and get a chuckle out of myself. It goes without saying that most people who do YouTube have some level of narcissism in them, and that's the barometer for mine. Do with that information and make whatever judgments about me you will. No ill feelings. But Dylan, if you like comedy so much, if you are such a big fan of the likes of George Carlin or Bill Hicks or Robin Williams or why wouldn't you just go out and try it? Go do some open mics at the coffee house or go downtown, jump into the life of a comic. Do all those little things that you're supposed to do based off of all the starting out stories you've heard from Bill Burr or Dave Chappelle, Jerry Seinfeld, Richard Pryor. You know, the real workhorses of the stage, the people who put their everything and broke their goddamn backs and in some cases caught on fucking fire in order to get the reputations that they were able to get for themselves. Look at me. Look at how I talk. Look at how I fidget. Look at my little behavioral patterns. As I've talked about in the past, I am an anxious boy. In fact, as I've pointed out a few times throughout the channel, I am medicated. I'm on Zoloft, or the generic version of Zoloft. It was in this very house that I actually started taking this stuff. Cookie kept me company as my brain chemistry was getting remapped to more or less what it currently is. All the while, I'm reading fucking Calvin and Hobbes and listening to Weezer's Pinkerton over and over again while I put my feet back on the ground.
I've just taken my first dose of Zoloft, and so far, I can already feel a difference. What's difficult is describing the difference. The best way to describe it would be it's like getting used to a new body, I guess. It's kind of like putting a new lens on a camera or switching from mono to stereo.
I am an anxious boy. I would fantasize about going out to a bar or a community rec center and entertaining like maybe a few dozen or hell, maybe even a few hundred people in a manner similar to a lot of my creative heroes. But God damn, that shit's scary. Certain parts of my personality are definitely tailored for that sort of thing. When I go to a party and manage to have one of those nights where I'm getting that motherfucker to laugh, I'm getting that motherfucker to laugh, I'm getting that motherfucker to laugh, it's great. It's like the biggest fucking gas. Very much a rival to making a song or a video or like a drawing that I'm proud of. Like it's every bit as exciting. But it's a totally different thing to walk out into a space where the direct, exact purpose of going to this place is for people to look at you and listen to you and judge you. Like, damn, dude, I hated giving presentations in school. I would get major stage fright before like music department performances or what little theater work that I did in school, all of which was so fun, so great. I wouldn't trade that time of my life for anything. But goddamn, dude, it's so fucking scary. And yet a lot of performers have stage fright. You've got people who are on the verge of passing out or throwing up before they go up on stage, and then they start doing it, and bam, they're in their zone. A lot of athletes are wired the same way. They'll just like get all kinds of sick right before the big game. They'll like have a little prayer to themselves in private and then go out, amp themselves up and go do their fucking thing. And then they perform and pass in shining colors. They sink that bucket right into the field goal, and then the goalie gets stuck in the net. There's a fight on the ice. Sports. Watch my sports video, please. Semi-recently, there was a happening on Twitter where pretty damn popular YouTuber Chris Raygun shared a video of him having a panic attack. I am familiar enough with his channel and his brand to know that he has struggled with anxiety for many years. I actually relate to his journey as a content creator a lot because he deals with generalized anxiety in a very similar way that me and other people do, whilst having an interest in entertaining people. In fact, a few years ago, he tweeted about going out and actually doing stand-up because it was a long-time passion and interest of his that he just never quite got around to because of, you know, that. And then he went out and did it. He was improving his mental when it came to going into public spaces and doing that thing that he so very much wanted to do. He was amped, he was self-encouraged, he was confident, and then the fucking quarantine happened. And, yeah. Homie's had some rough patches. And I think it was the most gangster, ballsy shit to chronicle that in the middle of trying to film one of his YouTube videos and having that breakdown, just to show that, you know, a lot of people do struggle with this stuff despite wanting to go out and commit to a craft or an art of some kind that involves having a bunch of eyes on you. This is something that's exclusively doable in the age of the internet and democratized social media.
Whose hand is that? Where did that hand come from?
So Bo Burnham has a new special out. Me and my partner watched this thing, being longtime fans of Bo Burnham. She showed me what, back in like, I don't even know, man, 2014, 2015. That very well could have been a key moment in me getting like proactively interested in pursuing comedy. Even if I never like actually did it, but that spark was there because this was a dude who made YouTube videos and got big, started performing, and he became like one of the premier comics of his generation. He's always impressed me.
My aunt used to say, slow and steady wins the race. She died in a fire.
My drug's attention, I am an addict, but I get paid to indulge in my habit. It's all an illusion. I'm wearing makeup, makeup.
Every special he's ever put out has been a little seed of ambition that low-key convinced me that, you know what, I may not be someone who's grizzled and experienced at anything besides what he's immediately interested in, but that doesn't mean you can't go out and do something like that. Now, to do that and also be as good as he can fucking be, that's like its own can of worms that I seldom like thinking about. This thing starts up after days of anticipation of watching it. With that anticipation was a bit of unease because my respect and admiration for the motherfucker's work is so intense that whenever I get around to like, you know, finally watching his stuff, I experience what comic mastermind and acclaimed filmmaker and model parent Lanooski referred to as awe and depression. In a compilation album of his stand-up before, you know, he became the filmmaker that most people know him for today and the creep that everyone else knows him as. He spoke highly of a dude called Mort Saul, who was kind of the Jon Stewart or Stephen Colbert of his time.
You lose your job if you stay here, and you have to go to too many meetings if you belong to this.
He had like very concise precision strike analysis and satire of whatever political shit was happening in his time.
And he'd say, I want to get this country moving again. Yes, it's a very positive thought, but it's kind of spurious. Where do you know? And then he said, I want to take you with me, which got to a lot of people. Amazingly enough, they say, well, I don't know where he's going, but he's going to take us with him. now he comes into the press conference, and I thought I detected a subtle change in his attitude, and he said, I seem to have inherited a mess. And, because, you people are not willing to do what must be done. Well, you knew we were like that before when you... No, I didn't. I didn't know that none of you can read as fast as I can. Well, sure you did. It's like right after the wedding, you know.
So we would watch this guy and just get so fucking sad that someone could be that good at what they do. An exciting artist who also manages to make you say, why the fuck do I even try? I felt it with What? I felt it with Make Happy. I felt it just listening to the guy talk about his work in interviews and stuff. And I once again felt it with Inside. Within the first 5 minutes, the way he was shooting it, the way he was presenting himself, the way he was being very vulnerable and meta about how he was even scrapping this thing together, given the circumstances of quarantine and COVID, I already got sad. My girlfriend looked over at me and was like, "Are you sad?" And I was like, "Yep." I had one of these while we were watching it too. And there was an awkward pause as the rest of it was unraveling. And I was like, I'm just going to stick with it and push through. Whatever happens, happens. It was easily the most intense it had ever been while watching a new Bo Burnham special. Just that inevitable feeling of, oh, fuck, it's about to happen again. But I am glad that I stuck with it, because this is, like pretty much everything else the guy has ever tried to do, it's challenging our own conceptions of the form of comedy. Like even the announcement of this thing, Bo Burnham, a new comedy special only on Netflix. Comedy special. The only comedy specials I had seen in the COVID era were like stripped down and small ones. Kevin Hart doing one in his fucking basement for a select pool of friends. Dave Chappelle doing an impromptu one in the face of George Floyd's death in like an open park. Traditional specials just like incredibly compromised compared to what one expects when they hear the word comedy special. But like, I don't even see any of that in this trailer. I just hear music, and I see him quite awkwardly and hairily staring into the camera and off screen. What's he gonna do? What he did was make something that's a cross intersection of every medium in art he's ever been remotely involved in. He's written and performed comedy music. He's written and performed stand-up on stages. He's made a movie. He's acted in movies. And the guy basically found a way to do all of those things at the same time within one piece of work, pretty much by himself, bar like executive producers or whoever else helped him with like the back end of things. And that very fact is built into the project itself. You see him first using this cinema cam, and as the thing goes along, you can see him tangibly getting better with color grading and composition. I'm getting ahead of myself. So it's a comedy special with sketches and music, and even moments where he's attempting to channel a traditional stand-up by sitting there and adding like canned laughter. Like, it is a special, but it's also a YouTube video, but it's also a feature film about isolation. When he's not making like high quality versions of what we typically watch on YouTube now, you know, sketches and music videos, there's these interstitial bits where he's talking about his emotions or showing how he goes through the process of writing new material and songs. And the style in which he frames all of this is like super minimal. It reminds me of like experimental minimalist films from the 60s and 70s by directors like Chantal Ackerman, whose body of work is heavily defined by spaces and streets and houses. It's less about story and narrative and characters and more about just capturing these individual moments in very specific locations where the main character is the setting. It also reminded me of the early work of Richard Linklater, who most people know for stuff like Dazed and Confused, School of Rock, Me and Orson Welles, Boyhood. Like, he's a really acclaimed indie director. But when he was first learning how to make movies, he did literally everything by himself. There's a movie called It's Impossible to Learn to Plow by Reading Books, where he basically did a Casey Neistat travel vlog before, you know, any of those terms were remotely relevant to the English language, going from point A to point B and just kind of chronicling what he saw, who he talked to, and what he did along the way. Like, that's the movie. So this motherfucker took that mode, that philosophy to making a movie, and mixed it with whatever experiences he had making 8th grade or working on the sets of other people's films, and of course, his bread and butter of writing and performing music and comedy. It really is a really high quality, high definition, cinematic YouTube video. It's really fucking ironic because in his original upbringing as a comic, he was making really lo-fi, webcam, goofy songs that were like wise beyond their years and were just like generally funny enough that he was able to hook people because it's like, whoa, this kid's funny as shit. Let's yank him off of this niche site and put him in big boy real world. Meanwhile, like, the niche fucking void of YouTube continued to prosper and grow. You had people who innovated and experimented and amassed these really lucrative and highly respected followings. Like, it didn't stop developing just because the people who were able to get out of it got out of it. Like, it kept becoming its own thing. It kept functioning as this next evolution of creating content and putting stuff out there for people to consume. So he's going back to his roots, and he even addresses this in the special by sitting in his room and making stuff. Like, I can't... Like, on one hand, yeah, I am feeling that very selfish and self-centered experience of, shit, someone else already did it, which happens in literally every era and every medium of art. James Cameron felt that way about George Lucas after he made Star Wars.
I was like, damn it. Somebody else did it. I don't know what we're doing. This guy's making Star Wars. I'm not even in the same universe. I'm not even in the same century. I was kind of stunned. I was depressed, actually.
But at the same time, it was like, yes, it's possible.
But yet, even ignoring all that, knowing that so many people are like light years ahead of whatever I'm reasonably gonna achieve in my lifetime, this guy took what people like me and a lot of my friends online and people all over the world are making do with because they don't have it within themselves to go out into a club and impress people who, you know, would stuff their face with pasta and then go out and perform stand-up all night at brick mortar comedy clubs. It's too late. I can't do that. And I'm too scared. I'm too spindly. I'm too shaky. I can't do that. What I can do is this. What I have done is this and that. It's like a new modes of expression that is just niche enough to confuse all the boomers and people who are more like traditionally minded of what you can do with comedy, with art, yet popular enough that you can get seen. If you put in the work, you can find an audience. And this motherfucker took that model and has elevated it into something that you can watch on one of the biggest streaming services on the planet. I don't want to hype this guy up as some like cosmic entity who could do literally anything and I'd eat it up, because he's a flawed human being who himself is very anxious. In the special, he talks about how he had to take a break from doing comedy tours and performing in front of like traditional opera houses and comedy venues because he too started having panic attacks before going out on stage. He talked about it on H3's podcast a few years back while he was promoting 8th grade. And much like me, much like Chris Reagan, much like so many other people who were striving to do something remotely similar, he got totally fucked over by COVID. All of the strides we were making in the past few years just like took a fucking nosedive because all of the faculties we had at our disposal, venues, cons, just the act of traveling, the act of making stuff and putting it out there. Like it all just... COVID. Fuck you, COVID. We don't stand COVID. COVID's not a king. COVID's not a queen. COVID's not even a fucking serf or a peasant. COVID is a little bitch bug. We got all these beautiful brains who are finally starting to like come into their full flower, do really cool shit, and the little bitch bug comes in like... Zzz, the cicadas that are out everywhere ruining literally everything they touch, they're cooler than COVID. Do you know how fucking sad it is that these bugs who live most of their lives underground and then come up, they stretch their fucking cellophane wings, and not like 20 seconds into that process, they just like nick something and then they fall to the ground and are either dead or just decide, I'm going to lay on my back for a few hours so everything thinks I'm dead. Like, they're very lame creatures, and COVID found a way to be so much lamer than that. But I'll tell you what, they didn't expect one thing. It wasn't Pfizer, it wasn't Johnson & Johnson, it wasn't Moderna. It wasn't even fucking John Cena. They didn't expect Bo Burnham to be like, yo, you know all this shit that we're good at? Well, we can continue to do it, and we can craft it into something that's even greater and more beautiful than anything that anyone's expecting. And because you don't have to deal with the anxiety of like performing, you can just focus on these little details. You can have your little internal monologues and shoot them in a way that's sexy and on par with like an indie film that you'd see at Sundance. And you can tell your jokes. You can sing your songs. You can tell your stories. And people can sit down and fucking watch them and be like, hey, I'm closer to this person that I would have been if I had just watched another hour of him playing on stage and making an audience laugh live. My laptop's my main source of light, and it went into screensaver mode. God, the fucking... Like, I'm house sitting. I'm nervous about the rest of the year. I'm nervous about the rest of my life. I have all these fucking little projects I want to do just so I can continue to build brick by brick whatever I want this to fucking be. And I'm constantly thinking about that. So I knew I wanted to make a video. I knew I wanted to talk about Inside. I knew I wanted to talk about Bo. But life is just constantly buzzing in my goddamn ear. So like, just this whole day leading up to shooting this was a lot. It was really weighing on me, but I knew I wanted to fucking do it. And it's just really refreshing and motivating and life-affirming that other people feel this way and find a way to make it work. Like, I don't know this fucking guy. I'm probably never going to meet him in my entire goddamn life, but I just think it's really cool that he went inside, has always gone inside, but he went more inside than he ever has before, to the point where he called his fucking special Inside, and managed to make something this stinking good. It's a great movie. It's a great piece of art. It's a great work of comedy. It goes back to the roots of traditional media where you would have sketches or you would have songs. It's equal parts Muppets and SNL and Carol Burnett and whatever fucking obscure European artist that he's a fan of that he channels into the rest of his stuff. It's just that he's very in tune with everything that's going on, and more than just the comedy space. He's got his motherfucking finger on the pulse of our generation, and I'm really thankful that he's out there to make stuff like this. Did I cover everything I wanted to? I had notes. I barely looked at this book. I just... like this kooky, awkward kid who made kooky, awkward shows that entertained a bunch of millennials and Zoomers. Like, he's not resting on his laurels. He's constantly thinking about what he can do individually and how he can use those parts of himself to comment on our society, hold a mirror up to our society, and suggest ways to make that society better, while never once neglecting that all he's doing is telling jokes and dancing around like a naked idiot. Because, you know, someone's got to do it. I'm not putting myself on that pedestal. It's just like, you know, if I had to pick what I could try to be, like, that'd probably be the most fun thing to do for me personally. So, yeah, so the moral is I love Bo Burnham. I love comedy. I have lots of things to say on comedy, so you can expect things adjacent to this topic to pop up in future videos of mine, whether they're video essays or, you know, stuff like this. I guess that's it. I'm using my phone as a camera and it keeps buzzing, so I'm sure I missed all kinds of important texts and calls from people, but I don't give a shit. This is me time. I'm going to raise my beer once again to the Dylan that first started doing stuff like this a few years back, shortly after starting Kickback.
This update video is so lit. This is the highest production quality I've ever had on anything I've ever done. Fuck DSLRs, fuck shotgun mics, fuck zooms. It's all about this. This is the future of my career. Just a webcam, whatever this is. I was too lazy to hook up a lapel, so I just used the phone thing in my earbud.
He got to act like a fool for people without having to do the terrifying thing of leave his house. yeah, there's just something really cool about my shitty sit here and talk about shit videos and the shitty sit here and talk about stuff videos of millions of other people having a new gold standard to strive for. We can all do that. And even if we can't be the fucking guy, just the fact that we can do this at all, it's enough. Subscribe if this did anything for you. I'm going to finish this beer before it gets warm.